Hello, and welcome to part two of chapter two as we continue on into our discussion about ethics, legal issues, and multicultural competence. So, as we move into multicultural competence, let's talk a little bit about what that is exactly, because there's often a lot of confusion about what that is. You take a class, are you multiculturally competent? It's an ongoing thing. It's not something that you're ever fully achieved. I personally believe that it's something that you constantly have to kind of examine, both on your own and also through the classroom and reading and experiences. So, for the purposes of this discussion, the definition is around preparing and practicing ways to integrate multicultural and culture specific awareness, knowledge, and skills into your counseling actions. So, in order to develop some cultural sensitivity, if you're not aware of the cultural issues that might be going on with your client, meaning you don't understand the significance of their background and how it impacts your functioning, or you are aware but feel unprepared to work with culturally different clients, it's important that you strive to educate yourself around things that you don't know about. I give an example of a young Muslim girl that I worked with about a month after 9/11, and there was not much that I knew or was aware of with regards to the Muslim faith, uh, and it required some work on my part, both allowing the client to be the teacher to me around things that she's the expert in, as well as my own personal education, research, looking things up, attending conferences. So these are the things that you have to do to be able to identify what's important with your client. And when they're speaking, you understand the terms that they're talking about and the importance of certain things. Now, when we're talking about cultural sensitivity, we're talking about these two things. I don't think I have these on the quiz at all, but just so you know, etic and emic. Etic are the behaviors and traditions that exist in almost all of us, like all the things that we kind of do, right? Um, Regardless of where you come from, who you are, the color of your skin, that sort of stuff. Emic are those behaviors and traditions that are specific to a certain cultural group, right? So there are differences. We know that we have overlapping interests many times, but there are also very specific things from family to family, culture to culture, religion to religion, that are not the same. That we don't all experience the same things each day. The rest of this lecture is stuff that you can, some of it you may know if you've been through these things before, or if this is indeed your cultural background. So I've just kind of listed these off here. I'm not going to read these all because you can, but just these are sort of general things that you may find in a specific group. For example, you may find in Latino families a machismo, sort of the man in charge, being protective of the family, being in charge, being like head of the house, what they say goes, that sort of thing. Again, these don't apply to every single family, but these are sort of general cultural traits that you can see. They value family above all else. There can be exaggerated expressions or dramatic expressions. I like to talk about this ataque de nervios, which is a very culturally specific disorder that sounds like psychosis, but it's not. It's definitely only attributed to folks with a Latino background. You may find that some people will believe in brujas or brujos, like a witch doctor kind of person, who's, some, like in a lot of cultures, we have sort of, I don't know if a good way to say it is like someone who's wooey. You know what I mean by wooey? So they're very woo. Uh, they may be about healing oneself naturally, that sort of thing. So you may find that sort of characteristic in certain cultural backdrops. African American families, there is a strong religious component, strong faith, mental illness. Oftentimes, with African American families that I've worked with, don't don't want to admit or speak about depression or other illnesses because you're looked at as crazy. And if you're crazy, people shouldn't be hanging out with you or allowing you to make certain decisions. Asian American families, you can see the family structure is a little bit different. There is a it's an interesting concept, this concept of shame. Like you can bring shame to your family name depending on your behavior and what you do. And so you're not just aware of yourself, but the generations before you and your family as a whole. There's respect for elders. They value like a calmness, a restraint to how they interact with others. And LGBT, very high rates of suicide, high rates of hate crimes going on against them. There'll be like this sort of, particularly I think with folks raised in very religious households, in not, let's see, how's the way to say this? Not like flexible religious households, meaning what I mean by that is people who don't see the Lord or God as also kind, compassionate, and accepting of everyone. You can see that with folks who are struggling with who they are in life, a lot of that struggle has to do with the people around them and the messages that are sent to them, as well as rejection as a result of that.